I'm not giving up.
I am selling the building.
The final season of FX's The Bear.
The restaurant is flooded.
Everything's either going to be okay.
No, stop!
Or not.
We are outgunned and we are outmanned, but we have each other.
FX's The Bear, the final season. All episodes now streaming on Disney+.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
To get information is now absolutely unparalleled. Yeah, there's as far as we know, there's never been anything remotely like this. At the same time, there's never been that much static. So as we were talking about earlier, the crystal sniffers and the unicorns and the ancient aliens. This is all a vast amount of static. So you have to be able to find your way through the static to the music.
How much does Ancient Aliens frustrate you?
Because I watched a couple of programs.
But if you did, you throwing things at the TV and
I have low expectations. So it's TV. It's supposed to.
Right.
It's entertainment, and the people who are putting it together, don't know what they're doing, except they see that it works and they want to make money.
Is it possible that the aliens made the pyramids?
When they have all these experts, everything it is it possible that extraterrestrials, I guess it's possible.
That's right. Well, it is possible. And Georgia, of course, pushed into a corner, says, yeah, all of this and that and so on. Still, it's aliens.
Georgia Tsoukalos, yeah. He's beautiful. I love that guy.
He's a funny guy.
He's a funny guy. When you think of ancient Egypt and you think of the public's understanding and awareness of it, what do you think the average person is missing?
All of it.
All of it.
Basically. Yeah.
So you think it's like right before our face, in front of our eyes, and most people just have no idea the majesty and how intensely unique it is?
No, look, our Mystery of the Sphinx, which was at that time one of the most watched TV documentaries of all time. And it really had a massive audience, and people who saw it remember it. I mean, even to this day.
Not me.
You saw it?
Mm.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I have a VHS cassette tape of it, sir.
Really? Wait, I brought it. Wait, did I bring it? I forget if I brought you.
I'm going to get it online now. I think it might be on YouTube.
So DVD, I was going to bring you a DVD of it,
beautiful.
actually, but I maybe forgot.
I've almost memorized it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I've seen it quite a few times.
That had a certain impact.
For sure.
But even if 30 million people saw it, 300 million didn't.
Right. And then going there is really what's up.
Well, that's the big crunch. And only X number of people can go there.
I went to the Vatican this past summer, my first time ever in Italy. And I had seen it on television before, obviously. I'd seen videos and stuff. I've seen photos. Boy, when you're there and you're like in, what is it, St. Peter's Basilica?
Yeah.
When you St. Paul's?
St.
Paul's?
No.
Paul's?
St. Paul's? Wait.
One of those guys.
Now you mistook it. It's St. Peter's.
Is it?
St. Peter's, with the dome where the Pope always comes out.
And you look at it and you go, what? When you're inside of it and you realize the insane magnitude of the construction, the fact that it took hundreds of years to complete, and they did it all without saws, without power tools, rather. They did it all without any modern equipment, and it's unbelievably beautiful.
Yeah.
Incredible work of art. And it pales in comparison to what they did in Egypt.
Yes, it does.
Which is like, there's certain, I think I gotta go because it's one of those. Well, they also have an obelisk that's a 4,000-year-old obelisk.
I stole it from Egypt. Of course.
Yeah, they stole it from Egypt. Yeah,
yes.
And you just look at that, and when you're there physically and you look at it in person, you just go, "How the fuck did they make this?"
So wait a minute now. Wait, this is the cathedral the basilica is very interesting and all that, but how did they move? How did they get this? Actually, it's an interesting book by my now deceased friend Peter Tompkins on the magic of the obelisks, where he's talking about, ripping them out of context and bringing them to Rome and New York and England. And it was interesting because they were brought over in the 19th century, and it's already, technology is pretty advanced. I mean, you have huge cranes and all the rest of it, and it strained the Victorian technology to the utmost to get these things over. And then you realize that the Egyptians did it with none of those tools.
Yeah.
At all. They somehow got them ripped out of the bedrock, brought down the river, taken, offloaded from the raft or boats or whatever, which is a big job, transported across the ground. That's doable. Erected in place precisely to the millimeter on the base. That's a big mystery.
Did they have levels?
What?
Did they have levels, like bubble levels?
Not bubble levels, but they had other kinds. They did it with water somehow or another. That's I think, reasonably well established, but I forget exactly how it was on how they leveled, for example, the base of the pyramid to the millimeter or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that you look at in Egypt when you go there, the deeper you look, the more mysterious it becomes, and you marvel at how the devil did that.
Well, the King's Chamber is one of the most bizarre ones, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
It's more bizarre than other things. I mean,
But just the enormity of the stones, the way they're set up, that it's such a complex system. The way that the way they've set them in place is so incredible.
I think you're talking about the ones that the so-called relieving chambers, which are really resonating chambers.
Resonating chambers.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, they're not they don't relieve anything architecturally, completely unnecessary to relieve the stresses from above. Directly below the King's Chamber is the so-called Queen's Chamber, which doesn't have that at all, has a simple gabled roof, and that protects it from anything that it needs. The other chambers, when you're in the King's Chamber, it's like it's an echo chamber. You can't, it's really a miraculous place. And of course, everything is precision cut and all of that, but it doesn't look that fantastic. It's the levels above that are the most amazing things. Because these are the 70-ton blocks of stone. I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
How they got those into place, no one knows. But they're responsible for the resonance of that particular chamber. And it's my belief that resonance plays, even not necessarily resonance for the human voice, but when you're in there, I forget the acoustic term, feedback or whatever, that you can't, for example, if we're in the King's Chamber and we rent the pyramid for a couple of hours for a meditation session on my trips. And when you're in there, you can't have a conversation the way we're having it now. You have to talk like this. Otherwise, the reverberation is such that it scrambles your voice.
Whoa.
This can only be deliberate, and you can hear from the King's Chamber. If you do a chant in the King's Chamber, if you go all the way down the Grand Gallery, and then there's a place below where you have to make a turn, and then there's a descending passage that goes as deep below the ground as the pyramid, as the King's Chamber is above the ground. It's about 12-story shaft that you go down.
Below the ground, 12 stories.
12 stories down below, and then 12 stories built.
Wow, look
above.
at that.
And right, very good. And if you set up a chant in the King's Chamber, you can hear it down in the pit below.
12 stories below.
Yeah, but you shouldn't be able to hear it at all because the sound has to go down and then turn around and then go down the other shaft. By the way, I should say, because people are always asking me now, it's a function of age, how long are you going to keep doing these trips?
Yeah.
And I say, well, unless and until I can't get up and down the King's Chamber, up to the King's Chamber, I'll be doing trips unless some media thing takes over. But as they say in Texas, if you can do it, it ain't bragging. And that's a good line. So I was in Egypt recently on a research recce trip, but that may lead to something and that may not. We'll say
recce trip,
a reconnaissance.
Oh,
the film lingo for reconnaissance.
I thought it was like a meditation.
No, recce, R-E. No, not recce. No. And actually, so normally you ever go with the group up to the King's Chamber, but I don't bother to go. It gets opened up and you go down into the pits. I said, because on my 84th birthday, I happened to be in Egypt. So I said, okay, I'll test it. So I went up to the King's Chamber and down the shaft. So that's 12 stories up and 12 stories down. And I went down to the pit. It was 12 stories down and 12 stories up. And I figured that was pretty good for 84. So
That's pretty good.
So I'll be doing the trips for a while.
Nice. Well, that's good. Because, I don't think anybody's capable of doing the same kind of experience that you would provide. Like, your knowledge of Egypt is pretty rare in this day and age.
Well, I was hoping when I had this idea to do my own trips, I thought, finally I'll make a living out of this stuff. But what happened was that no sooner had my guidebook come out, you probably don't have a copy of that, and it's out of print now, but I have copies, that back in 85, the first of the terrorist things happened, and these guys hijacked the cruise ship off Alexandria and pushed this poor old guy in a wheelchair over the side of the cruise ship, and he drowned. And my book had just come out, and instantly the tourist trade was killed. Talking about people being afraid. For a whole year it took for it to develop. And it did develop again, but the book had disappeared from the shelves by that time. Anyway, it's still available, of course. But, wait, I lost my thread. With the trips. Wait, what did you say? With Egypt.
Someone doing them like this.
Oh, someone doing it. My plan was I wanted to train a number of people up who's familiar, steeped in symbolist Egypt, to spread the word, as it were. And while I was at it, get a commission from the trips to, provide some useful wolf repellent.
So you can have some nice passive income.
Right. But it never happened because, one thing led to another, and it was hard enough getting my own trips filled up. But yeah, unfortunately, as it now stands, I'm the only one. Only a handful of people know symbolist Egypt well enough to communicate it. As it just so happens, I'm the only one who does trips. So I really am the only wheel in town in that regard.
Well, you brought us a bunch of slides. So
Right.
Why don't you tell me what do you want to show us, and what did you bring here?
Well, that's my whole long lecture. You want to go to the geology of the Sphinx, the water weathering, and then the other slides related to that, the gigantic blocks, paving blocks, particularly around the second pyramid, and mostly around the second pyramid. And then, all of that stuff relates to the scientific, the geological evidence. Mm-hmm. Then I wanted to get into, I didn't want to touch the symbolist, the quest for immortality, because that's a whole big subsequent thing. I did want to get into, and we didn't even talk about it, the map of Dumfuckistan, and what I call and I've got a great graphic for it actually. Everybody certainly, and everybody, probably most of your audience will know about the four horsemen of the apocalypse, right? Mm-hmm. From Revelation, who are actually an interesting study in its own right. The four horsemen are war.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
War, famine, pestilence, and death. And what's interesting about the four horsemen is that only war is really under human control, at least in theory. Famine, pestilence, plague, as it were, and death comes to us all. It's a peculiar choice, actually, for the four horsemen. But I invented the five cowboys of Apocalypse 2.0, and they are capitalism, patriotism, democracy, technology, and entertainment.
All the stuff I love.
Yeah, well,
That's the end?
well, no, it's just another way of looking at things, actually.
It's really human folly, all of it, right?
Well, yeah.
Call it democracy, call it capitalism, call it technology. It's none of those things. It's human folly. It's the error in human use.
Well,
right?
yeah. Well, okay. Capitalism is really based upon the philosophy, everything for me, nothing for you. You see, everybody's fighting for market share. Why can't you let a guy stay alive?
It's competition. But if it wasn't for that competition, we wouldn't be here. We
Well,
wouldn't have
that's for sure.
planes that shoot across the sky. We wouldn't have laptops that work so well. We wouldn't have internet that's so fast. I don't know. We might, but we might not. It's very possible that we wouldn't.
And there's a downside to all of those.
Yeah,
things,
but there's an upside too.
There is an upside.
I'm a glass half full kind of guy, John Anthony West.
That's the technology side of it. I haven't got to that yet.
Okay.
Capitalism is based upon everything for me, nothing for you. Patriotism is based upon everything for us, nothing for them. The bumper sticker says, God bless America. The hidden sticky side says, and fuck everyone else.
Right.
That's patriotism. Democracy is that the idea is that the dishwashers elect the chef and tell him what to do. I don't know about you. I don't want to eat in a restaurant where the dishwashers elect the chef and tell him what to do. It's flawed. It's hopelessly flawed to begin with, which Plato recognized perfectly. Churchill said, democracy looks like the worst of all possible political systems until you look at all the others. At the same time, this is fun, and it's not necessarily untrue. At the same time, he also said, contradicting himself, the best argument against democracy is 10 minutes of conversation with an average voter. I don't know about you. I don't want my leaders elected numerically by the average voter.
Right.
Actually, if they had a test for if there were, which is next to impossible to even conceive, if voting were a privilege. I mean, when the country started off, it was a privilege, but you had to be a white male who owned property, which is not as elitist as it actually looks now, because in those days, they were the only ones who were substantial enough and probably had some sort of an education. It doesn't mean necessarily that they understand the principles. And they were you might say the solid citizens who at least could read. I mean, nobody else could read except people with an education of some sort. So that was the rule, and it wasn't a terribly good rule, but it might have been in its own way. Anyway, that's as a principle that it shouldn't be a privilege to vote, just as like anybody could produce. Why shouldn't anybody be able to do brain surgery, or design a bridge? I'm as good as the next guy, but I've never designed a bridge. I don't have any training, but it's a democracy. Why can't I do that? Or play center field for the Mets?
And that's what the president is, really, essentially. Anybody, you just have to say, I want to do it. Step up, this is my plan, and get people to vote for you.
Well, it's a catastrophe. Anyway, put it this way. In its current form, and in fact, as far back as you could go in America, it's been a disaster democracy. Technology is certainly a mixed bag. Two big problems with technology. The main one, and we touched upon this earlier, is that technology deprives the normal human being of making a living out of his own out of his own creativity.
It deprives them? Technology does? How so?
The only people who are creative in technology are the people who are creating the technology. Everybody else serves the technology. They work in the offices that serve the technology. They're basically slaves to the technology.
But what about the people that use the technology to separate themselves from slave jobs? Like there's a lot of people that have started their own businesses online.
Yeah.
Because they could use technology now. So crafts, people who create things.
That's the upside, but it's a relatively small part compared to the number of people. They talk about all these good jobs going out to China. Those are shitty jobs. Nobody in their right mind would want to work in a factory. Have you ever worked in a factory?
No.
Or been in a factory?
Yes, I've been in factories.
Because I went to schools as seldom as I possibly could in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which is where the Bethlehem Steel Center was, and we used to go there on field trips. Holy mackerel, this was like working in Dante's Inferno, these blackened figures jumping up and down in the blinding heat of the Bessemer converters and the other kinds of jobs of robots stuffing things into boxes or flipping burgers. The vast majority of people, they get they have their television sets and their internet and stuff like that. But the vast majority of people do not and cannot make their living out of their own creativity. And before, however terrible things may have been in medieval times, people did creative transformational things. So that's the downside of technology. And the other bad side of technology, you talked about the good side. The bad side is that it's not immoral necessarily, but it's amoral. So as long as they can do it, they do it.
What do you mean?
Hydrogen? Well, hydrogen bomb, why not? We don't invent it, somebody else will do it. Nerve gas? Well, that's a very good way of getting away with, around stuff. Strike toothpaste? Well, it's a waste of time and effort and stuff like that, but maybe we can sell more strike toothpaste than unstriped toothpaste. And the rest of it is, in other words, a percentage of it, the medicine is very good until it gets into the hands of big pharma, and then make sure that the most that people are ripped off for to get at the medicine that they need, and the medicine that they have available is not usually a cure. It's a way of keeping people alive and buying more medicine. Anything that's actually a cure that comes from alternative sources is fought to the death by the big pharmaceutical companies. So technology is certainly a mixed bag, and entertainment, depending on how you define it, is what you do to kill time before it kills you. For the most part, it's an absolute waste of time. It takes your mind off the boringness of your own life. Art is different. Art is not entertainment. There's a broad line in between that, at least in theory, could or should be filled by comedy, which is not exactly entertainment, but it's not exactly sacred science either. But it plays, at least theoretically, it can play a kind of a transformational role. You can, real high-level comedy is enlightening. It points out, and comedy is based upon, you can't laugh. Comedy is based upon what's wrong. You can't laugh at what's right. You can't make fun of good sex or good food. You can make fun of attitudes toward good sex or good food. But you can't laugh at what's right. Not easily. But you can laugh, but you can and do laugh at what's wrong. And so, let's say at some inner level, by laughing at what's wrong, inadvertently, it's a recognition. We have within us, let's say, we have a moral compass, or compass is the wrong word. We have a moral thermometer or something of the sort that recognizes, by recognizing what's wrong, we're giving assent to what's right. It is to cultural, of course, what's funny to an Eskimo is not necessarily funny to an African. What's funny to an African is not necessarily funny to a Chinese. But comedy has this potential to play, at least in my view, a transformational role. But anyway, mostly it doesn't. And entertainment, at the American level, turn on your television set. Is that entertainment? It's certainly not art. It's a deadening. It's an anodyne. It's sort of, most of it is a kind of what's it that you take to go
sedative?
It's basically a kind of sedative, or the opposite, or it's like a Benny. It's a
stimulant.
It's a stimulant,
right.
Actually, with the Terminator and all those horrible, vicious things that they do. So that's.
Let's get to the slides,
right?
Because we're already 2 hours in here.
Oh yeah.
Let's take a look at some of the slides of. What do you want to start?
Let's start with the geology. Start right at the beginning, and I'll just whip you past. Okay.
Now, why are they? This is a really confusing thing to me. Why do they continue to rebuild that thing? because when they're rebuilding it, they're rebuilding the feet and the paws of the Sphinx. And I understand there's considerable erosion that they have to mitigate, but it's not the Sphinx anymore. I mean,
well, it's bringing the Sphinx back to supposedly what it was originally. The problem really is an engineering problem. They don't know themselves, and at least a few of them acknowledge it. Schock thinks this, and he's not in charge of doing the repairs, that it may be doing more damage because it's still weathering on the inside and covering it over with these usually very badly done stuff. But they're actually doing more damage than that. Well, the Department of Antiquities.
Is this Zawi?
He's no longer.
Is he in the book here? Did they lock him up?
No.
He's in trouble.
Never been able. He was in trouble, but they couldn't pin it on him.
Oh,
and they would have if they could. No, listen, Zahi, on a personal level, that's another long story, and we've already gone on for 2 hours. But on a personal level, I can get on with Zahi, and then he's now back in, not formally in a position of power. He's not head of the department. And because he's got his problems.
Did you see the debate that he had with Graham Hancock?
Oh, God.
Walked out.
He was a disaster.
Right away.
Yeah, he was a disaster. And all of his friends even, I mean, the guy who runs my trip, Mohammed Nazmi, I called a surgeon because he really knows how to operate. He's a wonderful guy. And he's a good personal friend of Zahi's. And he said, Zahi, this is a disaster. But he lived through it. And he's back on the scene, as it were. Anyway.
So we're looking at the Sphinx enclosure here, and this massive, massive structure with all this erosion around it.
Right, all this erosion to it, and then
you'll see this on YouTube.
When you'll see as we go through a few slides, you'll see the sense of that erosion. This is just a wonderful picture of it taken by a good friend of mine. Keep going.
This is
why the Sphinx could not have been weathered by sand.
What we're looking at right now, for the people that are just listening, is it buried in sand, which it has been many, many times when Napoleon found it was buried in sand, correct?
Right. Completely buried in sand, and probably for a few thousand years. This is photograph taken about 2000, when it had already been excavated and filled up with sand again, which happens pretty quickly. So basically you can say, give or take a few hundred years, that since its supposed construction around 2500 BC, it's been buried in sand about 3,000 of those 4,500 years.
That's insane.
So that's the proof. Yeah, there's the evidence. And still the geologists go on ranting about sand. When you were talking about this friend of yours who's going through the trees, say, okay, how did it weather by sand?
Wind and sand, right?
And
how did it get exposed?
The wind can't affect it that way.
Wasn't that the original text of who do they attribute to the construction of the pyramid? Tutmosis?
No. Pharaoh Khafre.
The
successor of Khufu, who supposedly built the Great Pyramid, which is not true in its entirety. The pyramids, this is another complex argument. As you see, everything's complex. They're almost certainly built in stages, and the earliest stages probably date from whenever the Sphinx was originally built.
And the argument for Khafre building, it wasn't in a text that said that he had a dream that if he uncovered the Sphinx, that he would become pharaoh.
No, that's Tutmosis.
That's Tutmosis. Okay.
1,000 years later, they attribute it to Khafre because the causeway that leads from the Sphinx, you go behind it, you see the beginning, not really, you see just the back of the Sphinx. The causeway leads up right to the middle of the pyramid, of the Khafre pyramid, which he almost certainly did build, or anyway superimposed upon something that was there before, because you can prove that. Okay, keep.
Did they used to think it was Tutmosis? Was that
no? They always thought it was. Khafre because, again.
What is this right here? That's not the Rosetta Stone, is it?
No. That's the stela of Tutmosis that talks about how in a dream he ate. It's covered with sand.
Oh, that's it right there.
That's in 1450 BC.
So that means evidence in 1450 BC.
It's just constant in sand, exactly. And with a certain number of other evidences of that sort, you can put together the timeline that tells you.
I swear I've read online someone attributing Tutmosis to the creation of it, but there's a lot of erroneous.
A lot of junk.
Now, the face of the Sphinx, and this is a really controversial thing, right? Because the face of the Sphinx is clearly newer than the body. It's less eroded, and it's also a very African-looking face. Do they think that which obviously it's the continent Africa. But do they think the Nubians had conquered Egypt at one point in time, right? Wasn't the speculation that one of the Nubian pharaohs had created this?
Well, some said that. 19th century travelers, lots of them noted that this was really an African face, but what they meant is that it's a sub-Sahara African face. It's a real African face. The Nubians are very black, but have more or less finer features. They don't have the jaw like that. I mean, that looks more like an NBA basketball player than an Egyptian. Anyway, the headdress is all redone. The picture before was covered with sand.
Right.
You see how weathered the headdress was.
They redid the bottom of it.
They redid the headdress in its entirety. The face itself is a much harder outcrop of limestone, so it hasn't weathered to the same extent that the body of the Sphinx has weathered.
So you think it's of the same era?
We don't know. Actually, because you see, the African face is a real problem. Actually, of course, the Egyptians are as prejudiced as everyone else, and they don't want to actually believe that the Sphinx itself could be a sub-Saharan African, maybe from an earlier period when the Africans were pharaohs. We don't know.
Wasn't there some speculation that initially it was an actual lion's face and that the lion's face was cut down to create this pharaoh's face?
That's us speculating that way, because the head is way too small for the body. And it certainly, and we had the NYPD, we did this big study. I think that's the next slide coming up. Yeah, there it is. There you see with Frank Domingo, who was the NYPD. Well, he was a senior forensic artist for the NYPD. It's a guy who knows about, physiognomy. So he did a study of the comparative faces of the Sphinx and of the Sphinx. That's the one on the right. And Pharaoh Khafre, and his conclusion was that no competent artist or sculptor could possibly have used the same model for the face of the Sphinx as for the Khafre face. Khafre face, and there's a few Khafre faces floating around. So my criminal partner, when Frank gave us that study, his comparative study, Boris Said said, for the academic establishment, this is bad news and worse news. The bad news is that there was an Atlantis, and the worst news is they were black. My black friends like that phrase. But anyway, so, and in the 90s, I did an op-ed piece for the New York Times, and I carefully left that part out. I just used the Frank Domingo's drawing versus the Sphinx. But a couple of weeks later, a letter was published from an orthodontist who also knows about faces, saying, hey, that Sphinx is actually a sub-Saharan African face. I didn't say it. He said it, so I'm not in trouble for that.
Right.
But anyway, until something better is discovered, it's a sub-Saharan African face, and we don't know when it was recarved, and we don't know when. Okay.
So it's entirely possible that it used to be a lion, and then some pharaoh came along and said, I don't like that lion. Look at my face.
No, it may have been that the head was so weathered that over time that they said, well, we can't repair the face the way that we can repair the body, and so they recarved the head.
And of course, the face was most likely still above ground while the rest of the body was covered, so it was subject to more erosion.
Well, it would not. Well, it's also a harder limestone. So probably, again, this is speculation, but we reckon that an outcrop of stone was sticking above the sand level to begin with, and somebody at some point, a jillion years ago, decided to carve the Sphinx by cutting around it, cutting the bedrock away from around it, leaving the outcrop above and carving that into whatever it may have been originally. It could have been an African queen. Would have been.
How much information did they lose when the Library of Alexandria was burned?
Well, since it was burned, we don't know.
I mean, it's amazing. No, really,
we don't
imagine.
1 million scrolls. It was bragged that they had 1 million scrolls. Who knows what was on them? One of my dreams, not dreams, but sort of vision, whatever, but hope is that one of these days somebody turns over a spade in Damascus or in somewhere up there and discovers a cache of hidden scrolls from the Library of Alexandria. It's quite probable that the so-called maps of the sea kings, the Piri Reis map and some of those other things, are copies of maps that were originally part of the library. And I have a whole film script, actually.
What's the latest on this supposed chamber that they found under the paws of the Sphinx? There's been some radio...
No, us. That's us.
Yeah.
It's the seismograph. It says
right.
There's a chamber there. And the seismograph doesn't channel, and it doesn't... And the geophysicist who did it said, yeah, there's a void down there. Now, does that mean that it could be a natural void that's certain kinds of limestone that riddled with those kinds of voids, but this isn't that kind of limestone. So more stuff when the opposition finally caves in and says, they never say they're wrong, and says, well, this deserves further study, then maybe we get permission to go and really look back into that, stick a probe down to something like that and see if there is indeed something in there. We don't know.
God, that seems like an important thing.
Could be.
I mean, just to find that there's something there.
Just to find that something there is important, yes.
Now, has there ever been any discussion whatsoever about, I mean, I know they've done all this repair work on the Sphinx. Has there ever been any discussion of taking the limestone that was pulled from the Great Pyramid and somehow or another putting new limestone back up there to recreate its original look?
No, nobody has ever talked about that as far as I know, but it would be a nightmarish job because all of those core blocks are all crumbly and
damaged
and damaged and stuff like that. And besides, they have other fish to fry. They've got technology to worry about.
I know, but I mean, just if people could see what it used to look like. I mean, whoever did that when they raided it to build Cairo, like what?
That's what they say. I'm not even 100. I've never seen a study that actually has documented where those stones are. And they're big, massive stones, and they slope like this. You can't build a bridge out of those stones. You'd have to cut the edge off, which is almost as much work as quarrying the stuff out of the raw quarry rock, which is closer to Cairo. So
what do you think happened?
I don't know, but I'm not 100% happy with that explanation. I don't have a better one, but that one is subject to, let's say, question.
Now, has it been firmly established that it was covered in smooth limestone?
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much.
Yes, actually, the Roman, Greco-Roman writers who were there at the time studying talked about it being absolutely perfect and unpenetrable. In fact, one of them said there's a rumor that there was a hinged block at the entrance that if you pushed it, or did something with it, it opened. And I've often thought that I wonder if that's the origin of Open Sesame in the 1001 Nights, because there are certain of those 1001 Nights tales that have their origins in ancient Egypt.
Wow,
that would be a good study. Go ahead, keep going.
What else we got here?
That's the head of Khafre with the falcon.
Wow, very different face.
A totally different face. I mean, you can't miss that. And there's a more long story, but we're already going over here, and I won't go into it. Okay, here's this water weathering that when Shock took one look at it, said, wow, this looks like they're hundreds of thousands of years old. Just keep going.
Hundreds of thousands of years.
That was his, when the geologist, he wasn't thinking what he was saying it. He was just saying it, but it was
massive water erosion.
It was massive water erosion by a guy whose expertise is in that field.
Right.
So if he thought about it, he can't document that until we get a bunch of guys there really looking seriously into it. But
how old do you think it is? If you had to guess,
I don't know. Because of the way it's oriented, one of the reasons they come out with the date. Hancock and Boval originally came out with this 11,500 because as a processional marker, because that would be the time as a lion, that would be the time when it last saw its own image in the sky, Leo the lion, the constellation of Leo. That would have been the last time, I think, not that there's too much going on. It's in too chaotic a stage to have been done then. I think it may be the age before that, which would be about 36,000 BC, which would correspond with the Egyptian texts themselves. However, that said, it wouldn't surprise me if we were older still.
Wow.
Until we get a bunch of geologists and experts in their various fields to see if they can put a fix on it, and they might not be able to, but that's one of the things we look forward to doing if we get permission to go back in there, get the funding, very important, and the permissions to go there and actually get this done. And this is where actually we were just in Egypt when I climbed up and down the pyramid myself at 84. And we got a complicated story, but we did get to meet the new minister of antiquities, and who was very cordial and kind of listed the things that we had to do in order to get formal position. But in any way, we established a personal contact with him, which was very useful. And then we also met up with the director of this new gigantic museum that they're building and that is going to open in a year or two ago. And he was very open to anything, even controversial, that they could apply science to. So if some of the other pieces of this trip didn't go as planned, we couldn't get to see some of the things we wanted to see for complicated reasons. But anyway, we established the potential foothold for getting the next stage of work.
That's very, very promising.
That's promising.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but they think that people in this form, the form of you and I, have only been around for somewhere around 300 to 500,000 years. Is that right?
Well, that's the current thinking. Well, and it changes all.
Yeah, it changes. So let's bring it back. Let's go crazy and say it's 1 million years old. When you're looking at something like this and you're talking about 36,000 years, boy, that's it's just crazy to think that there was this period where people were just throwing shit at each other and throwing pointed sticks at animals and kind of barely getting by, and then something like this just sort of erupts out of the imagination and the ingenuity of people that lived tens of thousands of years ago.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be that difficult, because as you keep going through the slides, you'll get to the Paleolithic caves.
Now, that's more evidence of water erosion, correct?
No.
Looking at right there?
No, I'm talking about the painted cave.
But right there with this image, right there, same image.
That's the same water weathering.
It's just another view of it.
That's the back end of Sphinx.
Okay.
And that's interesting. Anyway, part of Mark Lehner's theory is that, it flaked away, over time, and that's what's responsible for the curved profile. But this is a tomb that's been cut in. It's old. It's not Old Kingdom. It's what's called Late Kingdom, but it dates from about 600 or 700 BC, and those are the masons' marks, still as original. So for 2,600, over 2,500 years later, still perfectly visible. No, theory exploded.
Well, that definitely puts a damper on the wind and sand erosion theory.
Well, that too, absolutely.
Yeah. But now, especially considering that they still think the Sphinx is 26 or 2,500 BC.
Yeah. Well, this is. Remember, as I said, the second strongest thing in the world.
Yes.
And this is not. You don't trifle with them. And if you think that just because the evidence is good enough, they're going to accept it. No, they're only going to accept it when you beat them into the ground sufficiently so that they can't get up.
Well, as long as their reputation is staked on their original assumptions being correct, there's going to be a problem.
Oh, and so there is.
Yeah. So what are we looking at here?
This is the corner of Khafre Pyramid, and you see the two very different styles of architecture. The huge blocks below, very finely dressed, and the much cruder core masonry up above. This is evidence of two separate stages of construction. It's like if you bought a Victorian house with an IKEA kitchen in it, you wouldn't say, oh, well, they just decided to, build this Victorian house and put this cool new kitchen in. No.
Right.
You know in 2 seconds that it's two different stages of construction. Anyway, we got a lot of stuff to cover here. They're here. Wood stop. You see where these people are walking?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that this one block You see those people?
Yes.
Up there, and then all the way down where the third guy down there is walking, there's another, it goes down to there, and then
So
it goes.
it's like a 20-foot plus
It's
block.
about 20 by 30 foot block.
Wow.
And then do the next slide. That's what it is, edge on. Those are the blocks. People walking on the top, that's what we were just looking at. So those blocks are about between 6 and 8 feet thick.
Go back to the bottom one. So not only they're 6 and 8 feet thick, but they're stacked on top of each other.
That's right, to build it up to that level.
Wow.
Yeah.
6 and 8 feet thick and then stacked on top of another one that's of a similar
And
height.
if you go poking back into it, it's all, you see the joints between them are pretty rough. But in fact, if you poke back in there, you see that they fit together, that you barely get a credit card between them. It's just, that's lots and lots of weather over lots and lots of years. Then those are the blocks of the Great Pyramid, which are much smaller and almost presuppose a later state of construction.
Hmm.
Yeah, those are the same. Okay, that's the Red Pyramid. We're going to take up too much time here. Keep going. Okay, that's the interior of the Red Pyramid. And you see, that's a megalithic construction. It's always called a plundered tomb chamber. A, it's not a tomb chamber because nobody was ever found in it. It doesn't look like any Egyptian tomb chamber. And B, it's not plundered. It's simply ruinous. This is an earlier construction that, for whatever reason, the builder of the Red Pyramid decided to incorporate that into his pyramid. It's not like an IKEA kitchen incorporated into the Victorian house. It's something that was there before and that they built the pyramid on top of.
So there's some older construction and then a better, more... Stay up there, Jamie. Stop moving. So what you're seeing, the lower, cruder level, is an older method of construction. Then above it, you see like really smooth.
Yeah, much old. Well, and also you see really smooth because it's in perfect shape.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing. It's the inside of the pyramid. Nothing could do. It's like it was done yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the bottom has been out in the weather for a long time. That's the secret. It's weathered it's weathered. Not like the exterior of the Sphinx, but its style is typically megalithic. It looks like certain of the constructions in Ireland and Scotland and Wales, and megalithic constructions there.
So you mean like a cruder cutting?
Much cruder, but dating from an earlier period, 7,000 BC, something.
So much like when they go and do excavations in Mexico City, they're building like buildings down there, and they have to stop construction because they find like some ancient pyramid or something along those lines.
Exactly.
So what this is they had an old structure and they built the new stuff on top of it. The new stuff is what we think of as the original structure, but there's evidence to point that there was some ancient stuff below that.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, and what do we got here?
That's more
of the same.
shots of Shock and myself, isn't there? Okay, this is another piece of the puzzle. This is part of Abydos, behind the temple itself. Temple is off to the right. And this is, again, a good friend of mine has just done an elaborate book on this. And even though he's not an Egyptologist, it's being academically published, but it's going into all sorts of things having to do with this strange structure, which is one of the most resonating, powerful places in all of Egypt. We are convinced, Shock and myself, that those central pillars date from a much earlier period, and then the rest of the temple is Seti I, which is about 1300 BC. But this is too elaborate to get into here, and I'm running out of words.
Why do you think that it's older?
One,
construction method?
Style of construction, mostly style of construction, and the way that it's sited, sort of buried into the ground, which is almost unheard of for an Egyptian temple to be constructed as a subterranean structure. It would have had a roof over it and so on at some point or another. But anyway, it's a complicated issue. There it is. It fills up with water sometimes, and now they won't let you in down. But anyway, and this is we'll go
scuba divers.
This is us, actually, at Yonaguni.
Oh, in Japan.
Doc and myself and Hancock. And the Graham still, now he's getting a bit more cautious about it. But we went there, financed by this mega millionaire Japanese industrialist. Really, I mean, he wanted to prove the existence of Lemuria. And as you see, I mean, all of those geometric looks there. And Jacques and I came to the conclusion after a week of diving there that seductive as it looks, it really is a natural, entirely a natural way. And we could even see, we don't have the pictures of it because it was the last day we were there, you could even see the way that it was formed by the nature of the rock and the action of the waves and the terrific tides that prevail there. So this is what that's me, you can tell.
So you actually did the diving down there. How old were you when you did that?
Oh, when was that? 10, 12 years ago?
That's pretty gangster.
In my 70s, what?
It's pretty gangster.
Yeah, well.
Get down the bottom of the ocean when you're 70.
Well.
Checking out rocks.
Well. And I don't like being underwater either, but for archaeology, I'll do it. Okay, keep going.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated weed whacker guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength, Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
Oh, well, this is the famous cartouche that some people think is here. These are the Paleolithic caves. This is the best of them, called Chauvet. This is dated.
This is in France, right?
This is in France. And this they date, not us. They date to 31,000 BC or older. This is genius stuff. Great artists did this. Great artists are not primitive. They might be shooting arrows at rhinoceroses to eat, and why not? It's a lot better than going to the supermarket. And the organic, or you never heard of a GMO rhinoceros. But this is fabulous work. And who knows what was going on the rest of the time when they're doing this in the dark, hidden away in these caves. And this is 31,000 BC. So the date for us of 36,000 or thereabouts for the Sphinx and all of that is not as out of the question as you think, because they date this to 31,000, and this presupposes an extremely sophisticated artistry, and supremely sophisticated artistry is not done by morons or by primitives. It just isn't. Keep going. Look at this great stuff.
Yeah, they definitely had a very good sense of how to capture what these animals that they worshipped and went after looked like. But it was crazy here. You see, that looks like a rhino down there and horses.
It is. And the horses, wild horses.
Wow.
Well, maybe not.
So this is Göbekli Tepe,
that's
right?
The artist's study of Göbekli Tepe.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they've only uncovered less than 10% of Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah, much less. I think 5%, something like that. And their work, well, now it's near the Syrian border, so God knows what they're doing, but they're covering it over because once they started excavating it, been protected by the fill for all of these thousands of years, and it started deteriorating. So now unfortunately, you can no longer see it the way that Jacques and I saw it 6-7 years ago.
So what are they covering it with?
Oh, they've got sheds and roofs over it, and it's completely destroyed. It's magic, but I can't blame them.
Right.
If the weather is getting at it.
Well, when did they discover this?
It was actually discovered in the 90s, 94 or so, and they've been working on it ever since. And it only came into public view around 2004 or thereabouts. And here's some of the detail. And this is why Jacques is fascinated by this, because that kind of thing of the anthropomorphic, of the hands grasping around the corner, they're doing that, or something almost identical to that in Easter Island. We think Easter Island plays a role in this whole lost civilization hypothesis.
Wow.
And that's more. Again, this is raised relief. You have to chop the stone, cut or abrade the stone away from the figures. This is tough to do.
It's 3D stuff. And also, aren't there animals depicted on these things that aren't even local? They're not even available on that continent, nor do they think there's a history of these animals?
I am not sure. This one is that one there is a kind of a feline of some sort. hard to tell exactly what it is because it's stylized.
Right.
But it's a pretty brilliant piece of sculpture, and you have to, carve away the whole stone surface in order to get at that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they know or surmise what that is.
Yeah, it definitely looks like some sort of
like
a
a puma, some sort of a puma or something. This is interesting. That's a bead that they found there from Göbekli Tepe, and this is a big mystery in a small bead. Because how did they drill that hole? It's a very, very, very hard stone.
Very hard stone, a very small stone too, because this is sitting in your hand.
That's about the size of the last digit of your thumb.
Yeah, it's tiny.
It's tiny and it's thin.
And so there's a tiny little hole in that.
Right.
And again, we're talking about a time where there's no steel.
That's right.
So how did they do that?
Exactly.
Well, there's a bunch of pottery in Egypt in terms of carved stone pottery,
right.
where they have zero idea how they constructed it with a very thin lip, and then it goes inside contour.
Yeah. I think we have one of those there. This is a bracelet found recently in Turkey, made of obsidian, which is an almost impossible stone to work with, and the ridges on it. They, again, not us, have found by doing a careful study of it geometrically that it's very sophisticated geometry at work. I forget exactly what it is that's at issue here, but it's not just a couple of cavemen saying, well, my wife is pissed off at me, so I better give her something nice for our anniversary. So I said, well, here's a nice chunk of obsidian. I think I'll do a little bracelet for her. And
do they know how old this is?
Yeah, it's dated by the strata that it's found in around 8,000 BC.
Wow.
Okay, this is more stuff. This is Sardinia, which is a treasure of megalithic, misunderstood. Look at these extreme, fantastic structures. We think, Shock and myself, that a lot of this may be in answer to this massive coronal mass ejection that happened maybe thousands of years earlier even, and people are still building things to keep them safe from another one of these.
Now, what would be the effect of a coronal mass ejection?
Right now?
Yeah.
A catastrophe.
Right, now it would kill the satellites, and there'd be a lot of issues.
It would freeze the
grid.
It would fry the grid.
Right.
I mean, instantly the only people who would survive are the survivalists. Who are off the grid to begin.
And those are all assholes.
Well, those kinds of survivalists.
The real problem.
Yeah, those kinds of
preppers.
But other people are off the grid, doing. My pal Clay, who's here, is buying 10 extra acres that I have that I'm not doing anything with, and is planning to, in fact, do exactly that, to go off the grid and build a permaculture, 10 acres, self-sustaining little.
That's a great way to do it, to have like a farm, and if you could afford the land and have solar power and all that jazz and well water.
Few people are doing that.
It's a great way to do it if it's possible.
There are some people, but when the world is overpopulated to the extent that it is, it's not going to get to an awful lot of people very quickly. It's difficult to do. Yeah, these are the interior of those extraordinary nuraghi, they're called. Sardinia is an incredible place, actually.
And that's in Italy, right?
Well, island off the coast of Italy.
Wow. And what do they date these to?
Well, they date it to 2600 or so, 2600 BC. And Shock and I question that, but we don't have any data that tells us otherwise.
What is that?
This is the stone circle in Egypt, in Nabta Playa, as it's called, that looks completely fragmented and rough. But in fact, even this, the academics, the archaeoastronomers, acknowledge is astronomically oriented, and there's a physicist, an archaeoastronomer named Tom Brophy, who studied it much more carefully and has found much more sophisticated alignments than just solstices and equinoxes. Again,
now that's a common thread in ancient architecture, which is really fascinating, is the alignment with celestial bodies.
Always.
The Mayans were big on that. Yeah.
Always. Well, what they're doing, back to precession, for whatever reason that we don't understand, but with the evidence is there, and festivals and all sorts of things like that are attuned, take place at these critical, let's call them energy points. And what they're doing, and it's quite clear that they're doing it, is that they're orchestrating their entire civilization. They're tuning their entire civilization to the movements of the heavens. This is quite clear. And this you can kind of demonstrate. What they're achieving by that, we don't know. But it's very important to them.
What do we got here?
More of the same.
That's the devil's dick.
Well, close.
Looks like it.
Yeah, that's Nabta-Playa, and that's just the drawing of Nabta-Playa, and this gets into complications of the cosmology of it. This is the Dogon. This is the work of my good friend Laird Scranton, who you may know of, I think. Yes.
Yes. And the Dogon tribe, that's the tribe that thinks that they come from the constellation Sirius?
Well, or who think they got their knowledge, yes.
Yeah.
It comes to them directly from Sirius. I don't think they come from Sirius.
Okay.
I'm not sure. But anyway, Laird work started out just as a sort of amateur thing, looking into the cosmology of the Dogon, and at a certain point he decides to see how that matched current technology. He's a techie guy. He's a expert in computer languages and things like that. So he's very good at this kind of work. And he finds that in the first book of his called Science of the Dogon, that this Dogon cosmology of this, rather simple tribe in Western Africa, Mali, I think it is, has their cosmology, which is they know about, they can transmit it, is in fact consistent with the latest wrinkles in string theory and torsion theory and high energy physics and all that sort of stuff. And then that led him to the study of other civilizations. And he's now 6 or 7 books into it. And really what he's doing is it's unrecognized except by a handful of people. They're not bestsellers. And they're written very well. It's very, very simple and easy to follow. He's showing that this complex cosmology is understood and expressed by every society, virtually every society that he's looked into, including the Chinese. That was a relatively recent book, and he's ending up with a master picture puzzle of all of these ancient civilizations, and there's no dating them exactly, but it's become quite clear through this body of work that the ancients had this effectively the same cosmology and the same understanding of it. And we think that this is a hand-me-down from the ancient civilization that we're busy trying to validate. And the
survivors of this coronal mass.
The survivors of
the people that existed before the coronal mass that had achieved some sort of a high level of sophistication, and then these people with whatever knowledge was left over, whatever they had managed to save.
Something of that sort, or they were the same people who were everywhere and had it to begin with.
What you're seeing up here, figure 12.4, the quantum frenzy can cause a string-anti-string pair to erupt and annihilate, yielding a more complicated interaction. What is that?
Well, that's from the physics lab. Actually, they're talking about, I'm not sure.
So this is like some sort of a geometry thing or
the physics thing.
And they're looking at, this is Dogon art? Is that what this is?
No, but Dogon art has that figure in it. Keep going.
No, down.
Down, I think. Let's see. There's somewhere the Dogon have that. Well, there it's.
Where is it, Jamie? Okay.
No. Nope. I think it's the one right after it. So it's very close. Let's see. Anyway, you have to read Laird's book.
Yeah.
Science of the Dogon. It's really all there. And then it's the same in all of the civilizations all over the place. And as I said earlier, I dislike using the Old Testament, the Bible, for scholarship, because it's a minefield. You just don't know. You can select from it. I mean, the Inquisitors found a way to justify the Inquisition from the Bible, and you can justify just about anything.
Well, there's so much craziness
there's so much craziness going on in there. But one thing that did strike me in our correspondences, one of the intriguing bits of I forget where it is, Tower of Babel. If it's Exodus or no, it can't be Exodus. Genesis maybe. Anyway, one of the early books of the Bible, where they talk about the Tower of Babel, and one of the lines that's very suggestive is before the tower was built, all of humanity spoke in one tongue. That the Eskimos spoke the same as the Polynesians. What is this? And the Polynesians spoke Chinese. No, that doesn't seem logical. I mean, the linguists don't find that sort of thing. But if the common language that they spoke was the cosmology, and Laird finds the same cosmology wherever he looks, that's interesting. That's not anything that you can base. You can't be sure of it, but suddenly that strange line does have some corroboration.
I think it's very hard for us to put into perspective what it would be like if there was some sort of a high level of sophistication involved in the society back then, and then they experienced whatever it was, whether it was meteor showers, super volcanoes, asteroids,
yeah,
whatever it is, and then trying to retain a certain amount of it and pass it on to your children, and how things would get so convoluted and distorted, and there would be very little left.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, but the people would be of the same sophistication in terms of the same kind of minds, the same sized brains, the same capability.
Yeah.
They would just have to relearn everything all over again.
Well, this is a good. I think there's a good case that can be made for that, because stuff gets after this catastrophe, things really do go into a tailspin, and then around 3000 BC, 4000 BC. All of a sudden, all over the place, very sophisticated civilizations arise, but based upon this ancient knowledge. The mythology is all there to begin with, but suddenly there's Sumeria, and around the same time there's Egypt, there's China, for sure, there's India, and all of these seem to arrive at a very high level of understanding around that 4000 or so date.
Oh, especially Sumer, when they go over some of the ancient, those clay tablets, when they see the depictions of the solar system, that's where it gets really confusing. It's like, how the hell did they know this? How did they know that there was a sun in the center and that all these planets were in the correct size? I mean, they had Jupiter in the correct size, in the correct position, Mars in the correct position. It was very, very strange stuff.
I didn't know that, actually.
You ever seen those? Yeah,
no.
Beautiful. Have you ever followed Zacharias Hitchens stuff? He's got some really wacky shit.
Well, it is wacky shit.
Yeah, fun to read if you're high.
Yeah, but
the Anunnaki and those from heaven to earth came and created people out of monkeys and alien DNA. And
he's a galactic Darwinian.
Well, he was. Now he's
dead.
Now he's worm food.
And I call his followers Sitchin-innies.
Sitchin? Well, I read
use for
12th Planet. I think that was called the 12th Planet.
Horrible stuff. Yeah,
but when you don't know anything, it's awesome. Yeah. But pull up an image, Jamie, of the just to show it to John, of the solar system depiction in the clay tablets, because it's really fascinating stuff. I mean, it clearly shows a sun with what we. Our standard sort of image of a sun, where it's a circle and the radiating sort of lines outside of it. And then it has all these planets circling around it. Yeah, there it is right there. Look at that.
Oh. The sun is a star.
No, it's not a drawing. It's just outlined. That's the actual original clay tablet, but they've drew on it as an outline. But isn't that amazing? I mean, you could find the actual tablet, Jamie, too, and you could zoom in on it so you could see it better. But really, really incredible stuff when you consider the fact that they made this somewhere around, what was this, 5000 BC or 4000 BC?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was that one right there.
I don't know if it's that early, but it's somewhere in that neighborhood.
See if you can find a better full version of it there, young Jamie. But incredible stuff and weird stuff. Yeah. I mean, there are depictions of people with tails sitting on the laps of giants, and
that tends to decode symbolically, actually, those hybrid creatures, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those most of those things, I think, should not be taken literally.
Right. Like you were talking about myths.
Yeah, myths, because
Right.
things change shape and the one thing becomes another. And when those are shown pictorially, it doesn't mean that it's to be taken literally.
There's the original, so you can see it there in the background. Pretty interesting stuff, huh?
But where are they in the background? Where?
See right
Oh,
there?
there. Oh, yeah. And but the stars, that's the original.
Yeah.
So that you have the sun in the middle of the stars. Actually, that's a motif that you see in Egypt often.
Really?
Where you have a star with a solar disk in the middle of it. And often they're just stars. They're 5-pointed stars. And then it's with the solar disk in it. And what they're talking about, I think the Egyptologists talk about a stellar cult and a solar cult. And that as soon as you call anything a cult, it becomes you can talk about it because it's somebody else's religion.
Right.
Therefore superstition. But what it's talking about, and probably this too, is two levels. In other words, it's the solar sky, our solar system, and the star around it is the zodiacal sky, is the constellational sky. So it's two levels of the hierarchy simultaneously.
But just amazing that you're talking about such a long, long time ago, and they had all the little planets there.
But they don't have Uranus, and they don't have Uranus.
Let's see what they have there.
Do they?
Pull it back up again, Jamie.
I'm finding a couple of different versions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So there's more than one version of it.
Yeah, one only had 7 planets. They have another one that has 9. I'll show you.
Ah, that's interesting. If they have 9,
This one only has 7.
Right, but that was a different one where that shows a star and then it has a bunch of planets off to the side. Who knows what that means? Go full view on that one, Jamie. Yeah, look at that one. It's just so cool to look at something that someone made, whatever, 5,000, 6,000 years ago, and see their attempt. Go back to that, please. Their attempt at trying to show and convey what they knew about the world or what their thoughts were about the world. Like, what are we seeing here?
Well, see, that
looks like war.
That one is not. Well, that's a common theme in that's a common theme in Egypt too. The pharaoh smiting in the heads of his enemies. It's the conquest of the forces of light over the forces of darkness. In this one, the 7 might not be. There it is. You have that. As I said, often in Egypt or very similar. But the other one, the star, and the seven planet could be planets, but see, it's a different looking star too. It's many. 1, 2.
Yeah, it's a different one. The other one was 6.
It might be a number symbolism thing with the thing and the numbers. So the Egyptians do 7 not as circles like that, but as dots. It's it has a numerical validity rather necessarily than an astronomical one. That one, the other one.
You go back to the other one, Jeremy.
Yeah, now that one's really interesting.
Yeah. All this stuff is interesting.
Yeah, the relative sizes, that's pretty mind-boggling.
Yeah, and again,
and the two on the outer edge is really those two. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, very.
That's interesting indeed. I'd like to see that explained any other way than
they knew something.
They sure as hell knew.
I mean, or that's an amazing lucky guess.
No, this is it's not guesswork.
No, it's just unraveling ancient civilization. It's like putting together a puzzle when you only have 5, 6 pieces.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, that when we started out, there were few pieces, and then now a lot of pieces have been added to the puzzle.
Right, like the nuclear glass, the coronal mass ejection stuff.
Göbekli Tepe is a big chunk of Gunung Padang in Indonesia is another one. I don't have any photos of that, but Chalk has been to that and is absolutely convinced that it's very, very that it's human made, and that it's very, very old. But these things are showing up all over the place.
So go back to the slides, and it's just it's such a emerging thing as far as like people talking about it too. The slides. This is something that's being discussed over and over again now. It's much more mainstream, and now that Graham Hancock has got a lot of traction on his work and his new book, Magicians of the Gods, and Randall Carlson, who's an expert on asteroidal impacts, has sort of impacted his work as well, and really sort of made it more interesting because he's provided a context with some historical, like actual scientific evidence of impacts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Go along with it. So what are we looking at here?
That's Göbekli Tepe again, and I'm not. Yeah, that's sorry, not Göbekli Tepe. That's Nabta Playa, but that's one of Schock's slides, I think, and I'm not sure what he's driving at there.
Some sort of constellation in the background.
That's Brophy's, I think. That's Brophy's slides, where he's looking for much more sophisticated information in Nabta Playa, and even if his more far out speculations are just speculation, I think they could be. Just the basic premise is already of great significance. That this is, because this is dated to 5,000-6,000 BC. So that makes it the oldest datable stone circle.
Now, one of the things I was going to bring up with you, I forgot when we were talking earlier about this idea of the precession of equinoxes, the wobble of the Earth being caused perhaps by a dwarf star that we don't know exactly where it is. That was one of the theories about whatever it is outside of the Kuiper Belt, that there's this object out there now that they're 90% plus sure exists, and they're calling it, Planet X or whatever it is. They think that it's at least 4 times larger than the Earth, and it's somewhere outside of the Kuiper Belt, which is now what they believe Pluto's a part of, right? Pluto. When Pluto's no longer a planet, it got listed as an asteroidal.
Oral Pluto, got downgraded.
Got the shaft. Right. But they think there's something out there, and one of the theories that I had read was that it could be some sort of a dwarf star. That exists so far out there that we can't see it.
Oh, well,
a brown dwarf.
Yeah, well, this is, Walter Cruttenden, who started CPAC, would be, I don't know if he knows about that. I'll be seeing him in a few days. And some interesting stuff going on at CPAC. It's strange you didn't know about it.
Well, you know about the planet that they're pretty sure of, right? Do you know about that?
I think.
Well, let's see if you can find that. Like they think that somewhere outside of Pluto that there is a large body. They don't know what it is. They don't know exactly how big it is, but they think it's far larger than the Earth. At least 4 times larger than the Earth. And that it exists, and its gravitational effect is having a response. Here it is. New dwarf planet discovered far beyond Pluto's orbit. No, Jamie, that's not it. I don't think. That's a dwarf planet. This is something that's much larger. This is like, they think it's larger than Earth. Just look up planet 4 times larger than Earth, believed to be outside of the solar system. They think it's a part of the solar system, but it's on this gigantic orbit, like way, way, way out there. So most of them are binary star systems, right? Most of them?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Chuck would know that. He knows his astronomy a lot better than I do.
But it's interesting. If there is some sort of a star or a dead star out there, like way out there.
Yeah.
And then it's affecting us. It's causing our Earth to wobble.
Maybe, yeah. I mean.
Here it is. Astronomers say no, not Neptune. Is that it?
Lurks, yes.
Is that it?
Oh, Neptune's big. It could be.
Yeah, it might be. It's January
20th.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
Huh, I didn't see that one.
The claim is the strongest yet in the centuries-long search for Planet X beyond Neptune. The quest has been plagued by far-fetched claims and even outright quackery. But the new evidence comes from a pair of respected planetary scientists. I don't want to say that, guys.
Yeah, look at the language. Yeah. It's quackery if they don't agree and if it's not one of their own. And if it's one of their own, it's respected until somebody comes along and shows that they're wrong.
Right, but their language is tempered by guys like Zacharias Hitchin, isn't it?
Well, yeah, he brings it on himself. That's right.
Right.
But some of their stuff is equal. That's why I call them the quackademics, because every week there's something coming along disproving stuff that they've been insisting has been right for the last 10 or 15 or 20 years.
Look at this thing.
But they're never quacks.
They think it orbits the sun every 15,000 years.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
Wow. That's awesome. I mean, it's so interesting. We know so much, but so little at the same time. You know, I think it was Dennis McKenna had this great saying that when the bonfire of, how did it work? The bonfire of understanding grows, it illuminates the surface area of ignorance.
Well, good line.
Yeah, that you realize, like, the brighter the light, like, wow, there's so much you don't know.
And then also, you have to distinguish between knowledge and understanding.
Yeah.
For example, with the quackademic Egyptologists, they have a lot of facts at their disposal that they do not understand at all. And that's why, I mean, my own work, Schwaller's own work, couldn't have been done without all of that careful factual work by the Egyptologists. And what I do, or what we do, I mean, those of us who are looking into this, we take that factual material and Schwallerize it. And that gives us a certain degree of understanding. Those jerks don't have it all.
Those jerks. Let's go back to the slides. What else you got here that you want to show us?
I don't know. There's a lot, but some stuff I want to skip.
Okay.
Keep going. I want to skip stuff now because I'm running out of words, which is hard to do. That's one of those very hard stone vase with this thin lip, and the walls of the vase are about as thick as the rim of the lip. And this is all made out of one piece of a very hard stone called green schist. And we think, actually, Shock and myself, and it was an idea by another friend of mine, a very good writer named Paul William Roberts, was his suggestion that, hey, maybe these stone things, as there are quite a few of them, date from the earlier period and were kept as sacred objects all of those years. And of course, if they were kept and guarded and not broken, when a hammer breaks it, but were kept in one piece, you know, X number of thousand years, they wouldn't be weathered or anything. They'd be fine as long as they were protected.
Now, is there any speculation whatsoever as to the method that they used to create something like
this?
Well,
there's some stupid ones.
Let's hear the stupid ones.
Well, that they're shown with bow drills that, you know, that go where like you light a fire with sticks like this. Well, it's a kind of a drill that they put in there with balls of some kind of, you know, hard stone. And once you get the drill thing down, you can kind of work your way around and gradually hollow out the inside. This seems insane to me, and that it would take, I mean, one of those guys should devote his life to taking a block of green schist and trying that method and see how far he gets in 10 or 15 years. It's very hard to imagine that they could do that with a method like that. But otherwise, no one knows.
But isn't that like sort of, doesn't it balance out with the insanity of building a pyramid in the first place? I mean, building a pyramid is just an incredible undertaking. Didn't they say that, like, if you cut and place 10 stones a day, it would take you 664 years to...
It is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's quite clear that they did it. It's not at all clear that they did it in the allotted 25 years or something of the sort. Why they did it, I mean, again, to an academic, the only possible explanation is that they were tombs, even though there's no evidence whatsoever that they were tombs. But if they say they were tombs, they don't need evidence.
What do you think they were?
I don't know.
Right.
Except what I'm pretty sure is that they weren't tombs, and they weren't tombs only. My general sense of it is that since everything in Egypt has as its focus the quest for immortality in some way, shape, or form, they enhance that quest. They make it possible to do things that you wouldn't otherwise do. I can tell you, you get enough people together and come on a trip or come on your own. When we do our 2-hour meditation in the pyramid, you come out of there knowing that you've not been just in a quiet bathroom. This place surges with power. You got a group of people in there, all of whom are, especially if they're some who have practiced some meditation. It's really something. And I mean, you come out of there knowing that you've experienced something that you've not experienced before. So how they were used and to what end, I don't know. mean, this is a quite common theory that there were sites of high initiation. Well, there are sites of high initiation, and when you understand what initiation involves, that's not a dumb theory. It is a dumb theory if you don't think there's such a thing as initiation, and if you think that illumination is dependent upon electricity, well, you'll not be able to think Egyptian. But if you've been to the places and have experienced for yourself the power of these places, then explanations of that sort, even though they don't count as, I mean, they're speculative for sure, but when you don't have any evidence for them being tombs, that's pretty speculative too.
Right. And building them is incredible beyond belief. Lighting them up is only slightly less incredible.
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
Yeah. Now, do you have any theories at all as to how they could build some sort of a stone thing like this?
No, I don't.
Pretty incredible stuff.
But let's go, because we got a lot of stuff, and I don't want to take them. Okay, that's us and my criminal partner, Boris, swinging the digital sledgehammer, looking for underground caverns.
So what you hit that thing and it makes a sound? And
yes, the seismograph. The sound goes into the earth.
Interesting.
The next slide is what we found, and there it is. See, A. That is a cavern or a chamber or of some sort. It's a void underneath the bedrock, and that's the so-called Hall of Records. People think that's Edgar Casey is talking about. We're iffy about it. Other than that, the seismograph does not know how to channel, so it just says what's there. And
so it knows there's a void.
It knows there's a void, and at the very back, it's a little bit. See, it's the edge of the sea. See, at the very end by the rump. That is also a chamber, and that's absolutely, it's known that it's there, and this gives you the same profile seismologically.
But there's no known way to get into these things?
Yeah, the back one, there's a way. It's a very rough cut chamber, and there's just behind there, one of those stones, if you pull it away, and you can get in, and it's a room, it's rough, it's very rough, but about the size of the room that we're in here, the studio, and that's a room. So if that's a room, then it stands to reason, that's seismographical reason anyway, that A is also a cavern or a grotto or a construction or something.
So what we're looking at with A, when you see all those circles around it and the rough shape of it, that's the shape that they believe the room is. So it would be similar to the one that's at the rump, where it would be like kind of a
sort of
room.
Well, the seismographic, those are the, I forget, topo lines or something that give you the depths that thing is at,
but it's not like a square 90-degree angle.
Well, it's roughly rectangular, says Tom Dobecki, who is our geophysicist who was doing that work.
So what's the holdup as far as examining that?
Well, two. One, they don't want to be wrong. Two, that it's very difficult to do. It's under about 15 feet of bedrock, that cavern. The Sphinx is probably the most, let's say, the archaeological hotspot of the universe. I mean, nothing is more open to, excitement and all the rest of it as the Sphinx. Secondly, the water level has risen so that whole chamber is probably filled with water now. So anything that isn't stone would have been obliterated long ago.
Imagine if you got down there and you found wet scrolls.
Well, maybe, or stone something or another.
Right.
But in theory, you could put the little fiber optic something down there and study it. But they don't want to be wrong about this. And anything invasive, the Sphinx is really in disastrous condition. So any little vibration or something like that could conceivably damage it. I don't worry about these things. The geology is much more important as far as I'm concerned. And my guess is that when we finally break open the portcullis and capture all of the quackademics that it protects at the moment, which, I don't know, maybe we'll waterboard them. But anyway, we capture all of the quackademics and get them the hell out of there. At that point, when it is accepted, and these things do happen, this is this idea whose time has come. When it has come, things change, and at that point, maybe then the funding shows up, and the determination comes up to actually look into that void or chamber and see if it is indeed a void or chamber and if there's something in there.
Is it possible that there's some other things in Egypt that haven't been discovered yet?
Oh, loads.
Yeah.
They even know where they are, a lot of them. Because
Really?
Yeah, but what do you call it? Landsat, infrared something, when you can photograph underground.
Mm-hmm.
There are hundreds of sites that they know where there are graves and, tombs and stuff like that. But most of them, I don't think that kind of photography, I bet there's a name for it. I don't think that kind of photography goes deep enough for us to establish the lost civilization. It'll be under the sand level. It'll be at the bottom of the sand level. And so far, at any rate, it doesn't get down that deeply. But they have lots of places to excavate if they had the money.
Okay, let's keep going here.
Keep going. Okay, well, this is Shock's book, and he'll be at CPAC.
This is a recent book?
That's his last book. Yeah, that's a recent book.
The Role of Solar Outbursts in Our Past and Future. Forgotten Civilizations, the title.
Yeah, very interesting thesis, and backed up by a lot of solid scholarship. And Shock will be at the CPAC, this particular CPAC.
So he thinks it was a solar outburst more than they think it was an asteroidal impact.
He thinks, although they're not necessarily antithetical. The dates, in other words, it could have been
either or.
Yeah, I mean,
both.
Shock thinks that it's an impact in the earlier catastrophe that brings on the younger Dryas, the intensification of the ice age, and he thinks that it's the solar outburst that puts an end to the entire civilization and melts all the ice.
Whoa. Wow. Northern Lights, what else we got?
Well, keep going. Just go whisk by here, because this is Anthony Perrott, who's a physicist it's his thing. And here, these are these figures that show up in the electron, through the electron microscope, and that are mirrored by those strange dancing, multi-headed, multi-armed figures at the petroglyphs at the top, usually at the upper registers of the petroglyph facade. Which also mirrors, that's the Rongo script. Shock is fascinated by the so far untranslatable Rongo script.
Where's that from?
Easter Island, which shows as letters, presumably, those kinds of weird humanoid figures